First Corinthians, Peter, a lot of people want to try to distort it, but he makes it very clear that women are to wear their veils. And I was kind of thrown back. And then in Isaiah, there's a prophecy that speaks of women uncovering their veils and to take off their skirts and exposing their thighs and cross the river, and so that their shame will be, they will be shamed. They will be exposed. And the veil is interpreted in that. When women will take off their veils, they're exposing their shame. Now, you have the Torah, you have the Bible, and you have the Quran, who worship one God, Allah, and it's the same God, the God of Abraham, who in every religious factor we are commanded to keep on our veils. And this kind of hit home for me. So at this point, I downed the veil. I said, okay, well, that's a little, quinkadink kind of thing. So I immediately put on the veil in the spirit of Allah. And I'm reading through, and the first thing I do on Wednesday morning, I wake up and I put on my veil, and my husband asks me, he goes, "Are you Muslim now?" And I immediately said, "No, I'm not Muslim." What? Like, I didn't associate with myself as a Muslim. I wasn't at that point. And it was just like a knee-jerk reaction. And then I start to read outside, and I go on Facebook, and I find a very close family. It was an old neighbor. She was a very good friend of mine. She passed away, and unfortunately, I had read online that she had committed armed robbery. And I was really tore up about this. I didn't know how to feel or how I should react. And so I open up the Quran in the digital format. And the very first page that I land on is the story of Jacob or Yusuf. I'm not quite sure. Most Christians know him by his multiple colored vest. He is the beloved son. He is sold into Egypt. And I land on the exact page in the Quran where he accuses his brothers of theft. And at this point, I'm already convinced. I had prayed Tuesday night. I said, "God, I'm really conflicted. Please give me a sign so that I can know that the Quran is your word. I don't want to follow the wrong thing if that's not right." And so when I received these two, like, what are the chances? What are the chances that I woke up on Wednesday and I open up my Facebook and that's the first thing I see? What are the chances that I open up the Quran and that's the very first passage that I read regarding theft? And it gets crazier, you guys. So I had already planned on going to a mosque just to learn Arabic, and it was planned on that Wednesday night for the classes. And so I head there, and I talked for about 2 hours with a really nice gentleman named Hamid. And he asked me at the end of it, he said, "Do you consider yourself Muslim?" And I hesitated, and I said, I'm not sure how I feel about this. I guess by your standards, I would consider myself Muslim. And so I went home and I was talking to my husband about things. And just for your information, my husband is not Arab. He is not Muslim. I married him before I took my Shahada. This is all simply because of my personal experience. Just to make this clear to you guys. So, I'm sitting outside and I'm reading, right? And it's still Wednesday, and I see a strange figure rummaging around outside. And I go to the middle of the alleyway, and where this noise is coming from is where my neighbor lives, from across from me in a dead end alleyway, and she's not home. So I go to check the situation, and it's a man digging through a very large dumpster that she had to pay money for. And I didn't know if he was trash digging or if he was there to steal her things, because it's right there by her back door. So I stand there, and I'm not trying to be confrontational. I'm not at that point where I feel comfortable doing this. So I just stand there just long enough to let him know, hey, I'm watching you, you know? Uh, and when he realized I wasn't going away, he ran off, and I saw him carrying things under his arm. And so I called the police as soon as he's out of ear and eye shot, and they pull up. And this would make the third account of theft. And the police officer looks at me, and he sees I'm wearing a black jersey hijab. And my neighbor hadn't even thought twice of it. She had pulled up the same time the cops had, just briefly right before. She didn't even think twice about it, because it's cold, you're outside, you really don't think much about that kind of situation. You know, you don't think it's a hijab, you just think that, oh, this person's trying to stay warm. But the police officer looks at me and he goes, are you Muslim? And the parable, or not even a parable, the passage where Jesus tells Peter, you will be asked 3 times if you believe, and 3 times you will deny. And you have to understand also what Muslim means. It means one who submits to God. So I was being asked, do you submit to God? Do you submit to God? And on that third round, I felt this was imperative. And my first reaction was like, yes, I'm Muslim. I was asked 3 times if I was Muslim. I was asked, or not asked, but I had 3 rounds of theft. And my dog actually plays later into this series, which I think I will make a different series, or a part 2 to this conversation. But my dog would make the 3rd round of a 3. And so the 3 just kept hitting me. And so when I looked up, I was curious what was the reason for this number 3. And I looked in the Bible, and you know, just in general in the Torah as well, and 3 is often used as a number to represent God, the aspect of God, and the running joke being that God loves odd things. So he uses the number 3 to represent himself. Now, this to me was like a smack in the face. This was a sign as clear as I could ever get. This was the first time I ever felt like God was listening. This was the first time I ever felt like God was answering me, that he was purposely calling me. And after I accepted that, after I went ahead and I took my shahada, and like, it has been amazing. I wouldn't give it up for anything.